After resolving the troubles with the sylphs, we return to the Waking Sands. There we find Minfilia and the rest of the group meeting with a scion I have not yet introduced, Alphino Leveilleur, assigned Redditor at birth. After seeing how we resolve the conflict, Phrixio sends our good pal Neuraxia down to the Waking Sands to help us out. With the silence on the Primal front, we're sent to Thanalan to look more into the Ascian foes we've been encountering on our journey. After speaking to a merchant on High Bridge, we investigate an odd smoke signal, and after being attacked by Alamigan bandits, we're told that our best bet is to go to Little Alamigo. The Alamigans, a displaced people who are conquered by the fascist Garlean Empire, are naturally distrustful of outsiders. Without a way forward, we return to Minfilia, who directs us to Haribert, a member of the Scions who just so happens to be Alamigan. He tells us to speak with a woman named Albreda in the Shroud. Turns out she hates his guts because he abandoned the Alamigan resistance to become a Scion. But she does have an in with the local Alamigans, and after helping them out, they give us a letter of recommendation to bring back to Little Alamigo, and prove ourselves to the residents there. After some light investigating, we find out that the Ascians are trying to have the young Alamigans here summon down one of the 12, Ralger, as a primal. To that end, they attempted to steal crystals from the nearby Amalja, which doesn't work out for them. And now we get to save them. After going back to the Waking Sands, we learn that there are reports of someone in the Shroud who resembles La Habrea, not to mention several murders. While doing the quests here, something strange happened. Someone was following me around. This isn't an unusual thing by this point. People would follow behind me and walk along for maybe a couple of minutes at most, but this legend was different. And I mean, like, really different. Eventually, we find out that the one responsible for all the murders happening is Lady Amandine of Hawk Manor. She was killing young women to try and keep herself youthful, turning herself into a horrible monster in the process. And now it's our job to put her down. On the way over to Hawk Manor, I was, by some miracle of God, joined by yet another in my quest. Eventually, we even formed a party to take on Hawk Manor together. Obviously, I have to thank the legends Rend Arturo and Irikima for not only assisting me, but walking through the whole dungeon. I also gotta thank this fourth person who put up with our shenanigans. This first boss is super simple. She just has a few circular AoEs, and all of them can be walked out of pretty easily. The next boss is a 2-for-1. The only AoE is centered directly on one of them, so all you gotta do is stay away. Alright, for this boss, you got your basic look-away mechanics, boss-centered AoEs, and that's it. It's pretty easy. Some Ascians show up to taunt us, as they usually do, but they don't do much more than that. They just kind of fuck off. After coming back to the Waking Sands with our pretty lackluster news, we find our poor friend Thancred in a rather sorry state, exhausted from overworking. Just like me. We explain what happened to Minfilia, and then she sends us off to Lenosha. There, the kobolds have started taking active efforts to summon their god Titan, so we seek the advice of the Company of Heroes, the people who were able to defeat him the last time he was summoned. Instead, the Company of Heroes extorts us for various rare foodstuffs in order for them to hold a grand feast. For some reason. Alright, better get started on that list then. We need an adamantoise egg, the meat of a giant sandworm, oh, and the rarest wine in the world, which required us to help resurrect the wine industry. And then some goblin cheese. Man, some goblin cheese. Yeah. This actually comes before the wine, but I decided to show it after, since we have to do something special in order to get it. In this dungeon, we're tasked with clearing a goblin settlement of vast quantities of monsters, including a massive dragon. All for some cheese. The first boss just has a code AoE and some ads it can summon. Pretty simple stuff. The funny thing about this boss is that it has no AoEs, so third boss has a classic self-centered AoE. It'll also sometimes cage a party member in a bubble, which everyone has to break you out of. When the boss is almost dead, the dragon drops out of the sky, and we gotta knock it around a little bit before it'll leave. This guy has a fun mechanic where it calls down these blobs that'll explode, meaning you have to find a safe place to stand. The line AoE was actually a little more rough to avoid due to my speed. After returning to Brayflux, we're given a wheel of goblin cheese, which means we now have every item we need for the feast. Turns out this whole feast thing was actually just an elaborate test of character. We passed with flying colors, which means we now get to learn their secret method on how to enter the kobold summoning chamber. Alright, let me explain how this works. We can attune to these crystals called aetherites in order to warp back to them later. The kobolds have an aetherite network of their own, which we can access from a crystal they left out in the open, allowing us access inside. Once we arrive at the crystal, Yashtil uses her aether to power it up, giving us free access. Titan is summoned forth, and he knows who we are, the Slayer of Ifrit. Titan has a really neat attack where he leaps up into the air, creating a red ring around the arena. The red part gets destroyed, but you also can't stand in the center or you'll get pulverized by him, so you have to be right on the edge. He's got a basic line AoE, except this one will absolutely ruin your day. Part of the way through the fight, you'll have to attack his heart, as his main body becomes temporarily invincible. He'll also start occasionally walking away a random party member in a rock, which was actually really good for me because I didn't have to worry about the AoEs. So you might be wondering why the kobolds summoned Titan in the first place. The kobolds are actually native to this land, and the people of Limsa once butchered them to take swaths of their land. The Laminsen signed a treaty with the kobolds, swearing to never again encroach on their land, but they recently broke that promise. So the kobolds, with no other way to protect their homes or people, have resorted to summoning Titan to protect them. Of course, being brainwashed doesn't help either. And so we've defeated Titan, leaving the kobolds with no means to defend themselves. Wait, are we the bad guys? Oh shit, a piece of rock candy. Once again, these Garlean freaks are spying on our battle, but we don't notice them. And for some reason, La Umbrea is here. We head back to Limsa, where we're celebrated as a hero. Now we just need to head back to the Waking Sands. Good friend Araxia lays dying on the floor. While we were away, the Garleans invaded the Waking Sands, killing anyone who stood in their way. Only the Archons were taken prisoner. Nobody else was spared. Not even Araxia. They came here in order to capture us, the Slayer of Ifrit, and now Titan.